Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 131.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three goths who spend most of their time up in the trees, Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors as we attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us and our trailblazing guests, two of them today, as we shove aside boundaries, freely experiment, and occasionally screw up. I'm Johnny B. Truant, and my co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. And joining us today is Joanna Penn, and maybe joining us today will be David Gaughran.
And Dave's empty seat.
Oh, good. Starting off on the right. Oh, hey, Dave, we didn't do...
No, Dave's not there. Oh,
Hey,
there
Dave, we didn't do the pre-roll spontaneous discussion. You want to do it right now?
Yeah, should we start over or no?
No, we're already going. Go ahead. They like our crappy ad reads.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
I feel like I should start the music again.
Yeah, we should be ashamed.
All right without the music.
Yeah. So what's really fun is I was listening to Joanna's show just recently, and I noticed that you're doing a 99 Design sponsorship.
I think they are everywhere.
Wait, what?
Everywhere.
Listen to how professional her ad reads sound. You know, they sound pro, and we actually we got the people from 99 Designs told us that apparently our ads do good because they're so terrible.
Do well.
Exactly, that's how terrible they are. They do good instead of well. And when we were setting this up with Joanna and David, I said, "Do you want to come in on at 2, or do you want to come on at 2:30 on a normal guest slot? If you come on at 2, just know that you have to sit through our horrible ad read." And David said, "I'll try not to step all over the ad read." And I said, "No, please do. Please do. Please step all over the ad read."
That makes them golden.
There you go. I feel like we should wait for David to talk about this, but I guess we can't, can we?
We could talk about the local sports team.
Well, hey, I'll talk about. Well, it's funny with 99 Designs early ad read, but I basically have just done an illustration, which is quite different. A lot of people have done book cover designs, but I've actually done an illustration of the key to the gates of hell.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is
Dave
cool.
does those in his hobby, like
Draw
spare
my
time.
basement.
Well, that's the point, because if you think that you need like stock art for your book covers, you can't get that in stock art. So
No, you have to go right to the source.
yeah, exactly. So I got my demonic designers to do that. So that was quite
Is that in
fun.
process right now, or do you already have a result?
I've got a result, and I'm just totally thrilled with it. What was even cool from a creative process point of view was I was doing the competition as I was writing the book, which I've just finished, and so I was like, I don't really know what the key looks like, so I had just
that's
just
awesome.
make it up, whatever you think the key looks like. The key to the gates of hell. Let your black little minds go. And the one I chose, then I actually rewrote that bit of the book.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really, really cool. And for a creative, and it opened my mind to the possibility of working with an illustrator or a graphic artist. And obviously, Dave, you know all about this because you
Of
are
course.
one.
Yes, I know everything about everything.
But it was fantastic. I really enjoyed that process because I'm not an illustrator at all. But it was really cool. I enjoyed it. So I definitely do that again if it was a book title that doesn't really lend itself to stock photography.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I mentioned in the Sean and I have begun. We said that Fiction Unboxed 1.5 wouldn't be live, and so we've already begun. And we had a discussion just recently, and where I just mentioned that Ray Chase's reading of one of our characters, the voice he gave him, Willoughby, didn't totally, but it changed the way that I wrote Willoughby. Like in this book, I'm like I hear the nature of this guy in my head from Ray, and we added a grizzled military guy for him. So it's different mediums, all media, all influence each other.
Yeah, when I'm editing Glue's dialogue, I just hear Ray. I can only hear Ray. I don't even hear Johnny writing this character. I hear Ray delivering the lines, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I think this collaboration thing, I mean, obviously you guys collaborate with normal writing, but with doing translations and doing audiobooks, like you mentioned, I'm just more and more excited about how we can collaborate with other creatives to come up with different things. So, you know, well, just in terms of game design, I know we've talked about game design, Sean, but, you know, thinking about, like, what else we can do with our properties, I do think that collaboration is the only way forward. And I was at a Screenwriters Festival last weekend talking to producers and things about options and just being with screenwriters. The guy who did The Silence of the Lambs won the Oscar for Silence of the Lambs, Ted Talley.
Jonathan Demme? Oh,
no, Ted Talley was the screenwriter, Jonathan Demme was the director, right?
Yeah.
It was so fascinating hearing their screenwriters talk about collaborating with authors and how some of them are just complete dicks, and other people like Thomas Harris was just lovely and brilliant. And yeah, so I just think anybody who doesn't collaborate with a co-author, which I don't at the moment, you know, should be thinking about collaboration with other creatives in whatever way.
Yeah, it makes your work better. It does. It makes you think things that you wouldn't have thought otherwise. I don't know that I have any interest at this point in writing a book by myself, unless it was a personal book or something of that nature.
The children's books you can do well on, like the poems and stuff, like the Dr. Seuss like stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very isolated way of thinking.
Sean's also a collaborative slut too.
Yeah.
But I
he'll do it with anyone.
He will.
I was the one who didn't even understand collaboration, and I was asking myself this question recently. It was actually when I was listening to, and how masturbatory is this, right? Like I was listening to Joanna's show, and I'm like, I'll just pick the most recent one, and it was the one with Sean.
Sorry, Sean.
Really? I have to listen to my own collaborator on this. But when you guys were talking about collaboration, it just reinforced some of this, and I was like, would I want to write another book? Because it just seems like, I don't know, I should have my own solo books, and I just have The Fat Vampire and Valley Pimps. And kind of no. Like, I kind of don't want to. I would, but I don't want to really right now.
It's not as much fun, you know. The process goes faster, and I feel like the work is better. Yeah, it just a totally off the side, but I think this is very funny. Comment about our most recent podcast, Joanna. Well, I got the transcription back.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So the transcriptionist did a great job. I'm very, very happy with it. But there were a couple of funny things in our next book is Access of Aaron, but it looked like Access to Aaron, like, right, which is funny.
Access, yeah, okay.
Right, Access. But I really think it's hilarious that our revenge thriller is called Mama's Day.
Mama's Day.
Which is like a challenge. Like, I kind of want to write a revenge thriller called Mama's Day.
You know who should be writing the revenge thriller Mama's Day? It's publisher Pete. You know that's going to happen someday.
Well, so why don't we just see? Dave, do you want to play the part? You're David, so do you just want to play the part of David Gaughran?
Can you do the accent? Let's hear the accent.
I can't do an Irish accent. I'll do a bad English accent.
All right, let's hear that.
I'll wait till I have something to say, and then I'll...
Sean, do your impression of Gordon Ramsay.
Damn!
Oh, that's terrible.
That's all I've got.
Terrible. That is very terrible.
Very good. Very good.
All right. So here's the thing. So if you haven't received our blast of emails, or Joanna's blast of emails, or social media, or the 1,000 other places we've already mentioned this, we're the three of us, meaning the SPP guys, Joanna and David Gaughran.
Hello.
You doing okay over there? Yeah.
Doing quite fine, thank you.
We should have Ray on to do it. We're in a box set called the Indie Author Power Pack. How to, I don't know the tagline exactly, like how to...
Write, publish, and market. Come on. What else is it going to be?
I guess that makes sense. So it's write, publish, repeat. It's David's is Let's Get Digital, and then Joanna's How to Market a Book. So it covers like kind of the span. And the whole point, since this is the self-publishing podcast where we're talking about this, well, first of all, I'll make a short link, I guess. I should do that. But check it for it on Amazon. And we want to talk about it in terms of like what the strategy is, like why we're doing it, what it is that we're trying to achieve, like what our goals are. Joanna, did you come up with the idea, or was that David, or because you brought it to us?
It was Dave, and I mean, his whole thing is he wants to hit the New York Times non-fiction list, which, given that I was in that box set earlier this year and we hit the fiction list, I think everybody just has kind of realized this can be done because a lot of authors have now done it. So Dave came up with the idea of hitting the non-fiction list, which in principle should be easier because they've split that list into about 20 subcategories. So essentially, that was the aim. And before you talk about it some more, we should say that even if you have all 3 books, there's also an hour. If you want more of us, I mean, of course,
and who
you
wouldn't?
wouldn't want more. Yeah, more of us. There's an extra hour conversation where, as well as talking about really useful stuff, we also talk about our biggest failures, and we talk about some very personal things as well that you may never have heard before. So that's extra, and it's only 99 cents. We should say that.
Yeah, it's dirt cheap, and we haven't talked about this at all, but it's kind of a big deal. If we do hit the list, then because Johnny and I have done a lot on emails and stuff, and Dave feels a little bit bad that he hasn't done as much, so he promises to dance.
Sean, can you?
What? No.
Sean, can you? John, your thing cut out on the. I'm recording the audio feed, so I didn't hear what you said. If we hit, and then I was like, oh, the important part is what's going to be cut out.
Oh, well, it was all punchline. Like that's all it was. I said if we hit the list, then Dave's going to dance to any song that we want.
And by Dave, he means David Gaughran. And welcome, David Gaughran. Thank God. Now I don't have to.
Hello.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, I'm late.
What has happened to your beard?
It has grown exponentially, I think, since the last time you saw me. But it's only how long ago is that? That's only 3 or 4 weeks. I think I was home.
Massive.
Are you calling from a dinghy in the middle of the sea?
Are you fishing?
It is getting a bit naval, isn't it?
You need a pipe. Like
Aggressive.
And a fisherman's hat.
Yeah, and a boat maybe.
So okay.
Are you going to be Father Christmas? It really is like a Father Christmas level beard now.
You have the best
That's what
beard in the world.
This is only getting started. I think someone dared me not to cut it until I went home at Christmas. So I'll see if I can. I'm kind of scared to see what it's going to be like in 2 months, though. So we'll see.
You really shouldn't be that impressed because I saw baby pictures of David and he had this beard when he came out. So I mean, this is standard stock Dave.
Now, do you need all 8 reindeer to get you home?
This actually, since I grew this beard, we've saved about 25% off our heating bills. So that's not a factor to consider.
Awesome.
So we were just before you popped on there. We went on a detour. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes self-publishing podcast is off topic.
No.
And so
now and then.
We went on a detour, and we were because we wanted to save it, and we just started. So Joanna just sort of began telling the story about how this all started, and it was your idea. Let me give the link real quick if you don't have it. Again, all 3 books, exclusive content for 99 cents, and it's selfpublishingpodcast.com/powerpack, all one word. So go ahead, David, take us away.
Oh yeah, you want me to tell you how this all kind of started, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I hope I don't repeat anything that someone has already said, but
It doesn't matter.
Nobody was
listening.
listening.
Accent.
All right. Well, the idea is actually Johnny's idea that I totally stole, but I'm going to take 100% credit for it. I think it was just after Write, Publish, Repeat was originally released. Johnny suggested kind of vaguely the idea of doing a box together at some point, and I kind of filed that away, and then I think it was in February or March I saw someone on Kindle boards who had hit the New York Times non-fiction ebook bestseller list with a relatively small number of sales. I think there was something like 2,300 sales in a week, and that got me thinking straight away, because I think the fiction bestseller list, even on a slow week, I think you might need 7,500 sales, and then obviously in a busy week it could be several multiples of that. But this was a much more achievable number, and I started to think this could be doable, if I could put together a group of people and an interesting box, it's possible. So obviously, the way I thought the best way to approach it in terms of, something that could be useful for both a beginner and for someone that has several books out was trying to think of, break it down into very simple terms. What does a writer need to do? The three main tasks facing a writer is the writing, publishing, and marketing. And I felt there were three really strong books out there representing, although they spill over into other areas, kind of focusing on each part of that. And if I could put those three together, I think it would be everything a writer needed in one box. And that was the general idea. And then I sent an email around to the guys. I wasn't sure if they'd be interested or not, but I think they all were pretty excited at the idea right from the start.
This was a fantastic idea I had. I'm very excited that you all got on board with my great idea that I didn't remember that I had.
Usually Johnny steals my ideas, so.
Well, I think it's worth looking at what the goal was here. Now you've already obviously said it, to hit the bestseller list, but I mean, a lot of people are doing box sets right now, and I think that the people have different aims. Like when Ed Robertson did his Breakers box set. Now, he also did a Stars and Empire box set, multi-author box set, but when he did his Breakers box set and put it at 99 cents, the idea was just to funnel into the fourth book, build his mailing list, that sort of thing. If you sell enough, then there's money there, even at 35%, even at 99 cents. But we specifically had this discussion early on about what do we want our goals to be. And, I mean, hitting the bestseller list, like, why? We just want to be able to say it. Like, I like the idea of being able to say it.
Well, it's like an Academy Award. Like if you're an Academy Award winner, I mean, Cuba Gooding Jr. still gets to say that, even though he was in Snow Dogs or whatever that movie was. Right? Like, it doesn't matter. We could write Space Shuttle 9, and we're still New York Times best-selling authors. So I think there's some social.
No, I think they'll come back and reclaim. they'll take the title.
You are no longer.
So I think that's what it is. It's something that you get to say forever. And I mean, clearly there's not, even at 99 cents and many sales, that's not a lot divided between all the box. Like there has to be that bigger reason to do it, and that reason is compelling. And I think we're all driven to do things that haven't been done, or that we haven't personally done, and it seemed like a really cool thing to do.
I think there's probably, hopefully they won't be changing the rules, but many of us suspect, and maybe David can comment on this, but that they might change the rules so box sets can't make the list at some point.
Like
but
today.
Given how slowly traditional publishing and media moves, they've had it's been a year now, I think, since the first romance authors hit the list. The first time, I think. So they've had time to kind of change the rules, but so far that's not happened. Dave, do you know any more about changing rules?
It's been a persistent rumor for the last 4 to 6 weeks that the New York Times has either banned box sets or is planning to, or is discussing it. One rumor I heard was that a ban is going to come in from the 1st of next year on both 99-cent titles and box sets.
Yay, so we should be good.
I don't know if a box set has actually hit the New York Times bestseller list since this rumor started. So it's an open question as to whether they're currently banned.
Oh wow, that would kind of suck. I
forgot to tell you about. No, but I think the same time the rumor came out was the exact same time that the New York Times cut the number of places on each list from 25 to 20. So that raised the bar. So then I think there was a few people who were around the number where they thought they were probably going to get on the list, and they didn't. And I think maybe that started the rumor, but they didn't realize the number of places have been cut. So you needed probably an extra 1,000 sales or whatever to get on the list.
What about USA Today?
Sorry?
What about the USA Today list? Because that was kind of longer and stickier and easier.
Yeah, well, it's easier if you're shooting for the fiction bestseller list, because I think you only need 5,000 to 6,000 sales in a very slow week to hit the USA Today. But the USA Today doesn't have the sub list of, it doesn't split it out into non-fiction. And like when I was looking at all the lists, it seemed like the easiest one to hit was the New York Times ebook non-fiction bestseller list, because it had that low raw total in relative terms compared to the fiction. You only needed around 3,000 sales in a slow week, as opposed to maybe 7,000 or 8,000. But the USA Today doesn't break it down. Like the New York Times has all sorts of lists: travel, humor, non-fiction, fiction.
We should also say that you have to be on. You can't just be on Amazon. You actually have to be on more than one store. Do you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, well, as with anything to do with the New York Times bestseller list, no one is 100% sure, and all you can do is study the titles that are hitting it and missing it and draw some conclusions. But it appears that the New York Times requires 500 sales on a second retailer, like aside from having to hit 7,000 or 8,000 to hit the list or whatever is needed that particular week. You also need to have 2 retailers reporting to the New York Times, i.e. that you're not exclusive on one retailer. And the retailers don't tend to report numbers to the New York Times bestseller list unless you hit at least 500. Otherwise, they'd be spending all day reporting people that have sold 2 books. And the cutoff point for some reason is 500 sales. So if you sell 400 copies on Barnes & Noble and 500,000 on Amazon, you won't hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Wow.
So you have to have a second retailer, which is why we're trying to push Nook sales a little bit as well, because we figured, well, we're trying to push all of them, but we figured Nook was probably the most likely to get over that 500 sale barrier. So yeah, it's tricky. You've got to sell a lot in a week, and you've got to sell a lot at more than one retailer. I know authors who sold tens and tens of thousands in one weekend, and they probably sold double what was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list that week, and they didn't make the list at all because they were all on Amazon, because he was exclusive to Amazon at the time. So yeah, it's funny. Like, none of the bestseller lists are really perfect in measuring what was selling best that week. They all have their own quirks and foibles, and you know, that's one of the things you're up against that as well. But I kind of like the intellectual challenge of trying to figure it out and what's required, and then coming up with a plan to try and get it. Like, that's half the attraction.
Do you know what I like is that you like the intellectual challenge of it. Because Sean and I, David, Joanna, and Phoenix Sullivan have been handling most of the heavy lifting. Like, we've done our part, but they've been figuring
all of the heavy lifting. I can't even make heads or tails out of the Facebook streams. I get on there and I just want to cry. Like, oh my God, there's so much going on.
Right. So Sean texted me. He's like, does this just seem really complicated? And I said, yeah, it's really, really complicated. I don't know how, we probably should have discussed this ahead of time, but how much strategy and do we want to talk about any numbers of our stuff, or just keep that under the hood for now? Because it isn't out yet. This is still pre-order period.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I'm okay with sharing numbers. I don't think there's a problem with that. I think some of the finer details of the marketing plan are, because we haven't done it yet, I think it's better not to reveal it. We can talk about that afterwards when we're looking back. But yeah, I don't think we can. But we can definitely share numbers. I think we're coming up to around 3,000 pre-orders. I think the last numbers that I saw going around since it went up. I think it was first uploaded on the 22nd of October or something.
Sorry,
go on, Johnny.
Well, what I've been trying to do is, so David refers to the intellectual challenge of figuring out what to do. I've been exploring the intellectual challenge of figuring out what we are doing. So it's okay, so is this what we're doing? So I asked the question the other day, and what's funny is, like, we're a third of the box set, but like whatever. And so I was like, so is the idea with the pre-sales that we want to, because it isn't on sale, it's not our reporting week, our reporting week is next week, is the idea just to get really visible now, so that during that week, and then we have additional promotion, but is the idea to get to the visible point so that we're getting organic sales for the actual week, because it's almost 3,000 now.
And I want to piggyback on that. The pre-sale numbers, like all the numbers we sell this week, will they count for next week's sales?
I don't think we know that for sure.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of conflicting.
Wow.
There is. So this is where it gets complicated. We know for a fact that pre-order sales on a vendor like Apple will be rolled up and counted as first week sales by the New York Times. So even if you have a book on pre-order for, say, 8 months on Apple, and you sell 10,000 copies over that 8 months slowly every week, they will count as first week sales and be reported to the New York Times as first week sales. That's why publishers love pre-orders. That's why you see for their biggest authors, they'll have the pre-order up 9 months, even without a cover, they'll have the pre-order up.
I've always wondered why they do that so early.
And this is one of the reasons why Hachette was freaking out about losing pre-orders and why those big best-selling authors were freaking out about it, because it's really affecting their chances of hitting the New York Times. And they're probably on all sorts of bonuses in their contracts for, hitting the New York Times and all that kind of stuff. But getting away from the Amazon Hachette thing, so we know for a fact that any pre-order sales on Apple will count towards our 1 week total for the New York Times. It's an open question about Amazon because nobody is 100% sure outside of Amazon and the New York Times whether Amazon actually reports hard numbers to them. That's one theory. Amazon actually does. But the other theory going around is that the New York Times just takes some kind of average rank. Nobody really knows for sure. So we have to come up with a kind of a plan that covers everything, and it covers every eventuality and gives you the best chance. It gives you the best chance for success. So the basic idea, in very vague terms with the marketing plan, is to hit our own networks at the start and go wider afterwards, and hoping just to tickle the recommendation system into getting going by the time it's launched. But there's no formula here. There's no master plan. We don't know exactly what buttons to press. Pre-orders are pretty early, and we don't really have enough data to know what's optimal yet. So it's really a giant experiment, and we've no idea how successful it will be. But that's part of the fun,
No, that's a lot of the fun.
Let me just, if I could just interject really quickly, and then I'll let you get back to the actual content, because I don't know, is if you guys want to see what happens with this, if you the SPP community has always been really awesome with helping the show, and because we're in one big experiment. If you guys have communities of writers and stuff, this happened a lot with Write, Publish, Repeat. Please share it. I mean, it's kind of an insane deal. Even if you have all the books, there's the exclusive content that's new, and it's a fuck. And the second is, if anybody's feeling especially cool and wants to, Barnes & Noble sales, which is what David said originally, we need those too. So if you have a Nook account and you just want to throw another buck at the experiment, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that too and just say thank you, because we sent out our email and we got a lot of replies that were, I bought that when Joanna did it. I'm buying it again on another platform, and that was really cool. Or I have all 3 of these books, but I don't have them in a bundle. and
I don't have them with that pretty cover.
People were not buying them because they needed a missing book in their collection. That's not why people were buying them. People were buying them because they wanted to support it, and so. Thank you very much.
Well, we got a comment. We got a comment right now. Chrissy Moss says, "Let's Get Digital is the only one I didn't have, so of course I got the box set." So
thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
If you're missing one of the 3, now's a great time to get it really cheap.
And one of the original things people said was, people are going to have some of these books, but if you don't have all 3, you're basically getting a book for 99 cents, even if you have the others, which is cool.
And the hour audio, that's cool.
And transcription.
Super fun, yeah, and I would, and also I did a rewrite of How to Market a Book, which I just didn't announce at all. So that is the new version, the 2014 version in the box set. It's got 6 new chapters.
Oh, none of you guys have that. Come on.
Yeah, it's six chapters. Come on, it's so good. But no, I think you're right. I mean, the people listening have probably already bought it, but just to reflect it, because I've been in 2 other kind of big box sets this year. The one that hit the list, so it had 2 weeks New York Times, 6 weeks USA Today, and what David's saying about the algorithms, that's what did it. So the reason for doing this kind of pre-work is so that the algorithms then start to actually push it to people we can't even reach. So that first box set, I think it was 15 to 20,000 books in the week. But as you said, it's got to have more to sell fiction, and then but eventually it sold over 100,000. Now, none of us authors have that kind of reach. That was because of those algorithms. So that was, exactly right what Dave said. Now, the other box set I was in, which should have been a similar effect, same promotional plan, some big name authors basically went just stage dived. And what's so interesting is that similar plan, similar authors, similar type of books, total not the same result at all. Partly, and who knows? So this is what's so interesting. All of this is just an experiment. But certainly one of the big things, and I think we can talk about this, is the timing. And Dave had said originally,
Oh yeah, this is interesting stuff.
Yeah, either we hit November or we have to wait till February. Was that right, Dave?
Yeah, I was particularly conscious of all the big books. All the big titles are out now from the biggest names for the holiday season. You know, Walter Isaacson has a new book out about innovators in Silicon Valley. That's going to be a big seller, and almost definitely going to hit the MIT list. But as you get closer and closer to Christmas, the sales just ramp up, and it gets and to hit the back place, like the 20th place on the MIT list, just requires way more sales. So I figured like first week in November was probably the last realistic chance until things die down a bit in February. But we'll see what happens.
Now I have a question and something I've been thinking about lately. Is there a box set fatigue going on? And also, because good question. Okay, because Yesterday's Gone is serialized, and we have 6 episodes make up a season. So we sell them as episodes, but we also sell them as seasons. Now, originally, like when we had the box set up, and it was like $5.99. Sometimes we'd have it on sale or whatever. You know, it indicates value. You know, you're getting all these books for $5.99. But I think with everybody doing box sets for like 99 cents and stuff, I wonder, like, A, are box sets starting to look cheap? And B, if you have a box set like a $5.99 one, which represents, you know, a full season, do people look at it and say, well, why isn't that 99 cents? I'm not getting it. Like, are the box sets starting to kind of like look like 99 cent items, and are people starting to ignore them, do you think?
I think the box sets are still selling really strongly. So I'm not shooting it down completely. Like, that definitely could be a thing, and it could be a thing by as soon as January or something. There's definitely a huge number of people doing box sets. They're taking up a lot of space in the charts. Maybe Amazon will decide they don't like them and start to squash them. Maybe the New York Times will ban them, or maybe readers will get tired of them. But at the moment, it's still a good way to do all sorts of things. Like, there's all sorts of things to do with a box.
That's great to hear, because Dave actually brought this up in our meeting after the last SPP. Sufficient that we were like, should we change our 3D images?
Yeah, it was a good victory for Dave too, because he said it, and we weren't like, that's dumb. We're like, maybe he's right. So because you do see so many of them, and you do see
like it would do the opposite of what we wanted to do.
And I think more so for fiction than nonfiction. I think in nonfiction it's not quite as common, and it's still it looks special. But in the fiction list, like when I see like repeated box sets over and over, you know, my eyes kind of just like pass over them, because I figure, well, I probably already have some of these books, like if it's authors I know and stuff like that. But you know, I might be different because I am a different reader and I buy a ton of books. So.
Well, I think that different reader is the point, and there are a lot of readers who love the box sets, but I would say as a reader myself, I don't like them, because I actually, you know, the percentage complete on the Kindle, you know, I like to see where I am, and I hate the fact that if I read a whole bloody book in a 12-book box set, I'm only like 10% through. It really annoys me. It's but also I think it's that kind of bulk of stuff, and you know, I generally spend a lot of money on books, so that kind of classifies me as a reader in that way. So I think it is about the types of readers that there are out there, and I don't think the box set's going to go away, but I do agree. I think there is a bit of a fatigue, which is why we need to do this before Christmas.
Before it gets fatiguing. You know, I actually have something to piggyback on that. Is so if we were to change the 3D covers, I mean, Dave, have you been watching the clock? Do you realize what time it is?
I think I do know what time it is. It's time for a completely spontaneous conversation about book covers.
Well, it's actually not that spontaneous, because look what we did there. But I was thinking, you know, we talk a lot about doing this whole self-publishing thing yourself. So, but how can indie authors compete with traditional publishers when it comes to book covers? They can't. They should just give up, right?
Yeah, they should. They should just go home. We actually have some comments in YouTube regarding
this. In the script that I'm reading.
I know. I'm throwing the script out. We have some comments in YouTube. And one of them says, Paul Jennings says, I wonder where I could find someone to design the cover of my latest book. And Hamster Wheel says, no one does that anywhere at all. You have to draw one with crayons and take a photo of it.
Has anyone mentioned that how much you have to lose?
Let's face it, guys and gals. There's no excuse for a crappy book cover design. None at all. Not with 99 Designs.
What if you hire a hobo?
Well, I don't know what to say to that because it's not in the script. There's no excuse.
What if your beard has gotten so nautically large that you can no longer see to design your cover?
Then you need somebody like the designers at 99 Designs who are waiting to create the perfect cover for you. The process is super easy, as Joanna will admit to. Yes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Brilliant.
And we've used them for book covers and logos and have always been impressed with the professional quality and the speed the designers deliver, usually in about a week or so. You start off by filling out an online brief with details about your project, and dozens of designers compete to deliver you the best design. And you can even run polls to get your readers or customers involved in the process of choosing your design. And that really helps people get they're aware of your book before it's even out, and they're part of the process, and it really helps a lot. So I highly recommend
the part where what you have at risk for this process.
Okay, I highly recommend 99 Designs.
That's really the deal breaker for me.
And here's the thing with 99 Designs, you have nothing to lose, absolutely nothing, because
well, that's a tidbit of information I've never heard before. All right. Well, start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99, which will make your design contest stand out, bold your listing, highlighted, all that stuff, more entries. So 99designs.com/SPP and get started. No interruptions from our guests on that. You guys, I thought you were really gonna mess us up. Ed Robertson will do it.
They were blown away by the bad ad read. They were like, "Wow, we were watching a train wreck in progress right now. Let's not say a word."
The best.
I was taking notes on what not to do.
The best ad things ever were Ray Chase doing the ad read with Mauricio. And Ed Robertson, when we were done with one, he said, "Wow, I remember when you guys used to be indies." All right, so getting back to the topic, one of the things that that's been a theme with everything that we did is, so if anybody tweeted about like, "Wow, the indie author power pack, it's awesome," start with at David Gaughran, at the Creative Penn, at Johnny Butruan, and at Sean Platt, at David whatever, and wait, I can't say whatever when I get to Dave. At the David. Right.
You're right. It's far too blooming long.
Right. So at that point, you have no room for a message. And then, I wouldn't reply. They say, "Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you, guys." And I wouldn't reply. And the reason is because we were last, and we were told not to talk about the power pack, or until it was our turn. Does one of you want to cover why it was important that we space things like that?
Well, again, we're going into guessing territory with how pre-orders behave, because we've such a small sample size that we're just kind of stabbing in the dark. But the general idea is it's been a kind of basic of the algorithm since people first did book bombs and tried to get everyone to buy at 2:30 p.m. exactly to try and zoom up the charts, that the algorithms prefer a sustained level of sales rather than something which spikes quickly and fades away. So the general idea was just to spread out when we hit our various networks throughout the pre-order phase, so we don't have one large big spike and then it totally drop off into nothing. It's much better to have a smaller spike, but to hold it steady for a longer period. And
go ahead.
If the system sees that, you have a sustained level of sales, it will step in and start selling the book for you. But if it sees it's an artificial one-day spike, it'll just attach rocks to it, and it'll fall back into the nether regions of the rankings.
So the idea was we weren't supposed to dilute our bump by blowing the load early, basically.
Exactly.
So yeah, how long that period needs to be now is your best guesses as to when they start. I mean, it's the email blasts we want, right? Like we want them to send those emails.
Yeah, well, there's speculation that there was a kind of a major tweak to the algorithms possibly back in May or something, but we still don't have enough data yet to figure out exactly what happened. But I don't think the fundamental has changed too much in that the system prefers a sustained level of sales. But I don't think it's the exact same as it used to be, where it was all you needed was 4 straight days of solid sales and the system would take over. Something seems to have changed on that front, but I don't know exactly what yet. But it seems that the bar seems to be raised higher. Like whereas before you could have a relatively small number of sales per day, like 25 sales per day over 4 days, and the system would step in and start selling your book for you at a certain level, like at a level around that. And what I'm seeing now is that it seems you need to have a better performance and a more consistent performance to trigger any kind of recommendations from the system. But I couldn't say more than that in detail. I haven't been able to figure it out yet, to be honest.
Well, and I think that as far as the algorithms, it seems like that's kind of happening, because we've been promoting for, about a week? I think was the first post about a week ago.
Yeah.
And so and so over these last few days, like with our promotional calendar, I think yesterday there wasn't anything really big, and I think today there isn't really anything big. But still, I mean, I haven't been watching the sales like a hawk, but we do seem to, we aren't dropping. Like we're holding that level. And that seems to me to say, well, maybe that's right.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a very good sign. Like that we're not completely plummeting whenever we stop directly promoting the title, and when we step away, it doesn't seem to be collapsing completely. It's dipping a little bit, but that's a very good sign for next week. But it's too hard to say until it actually happens what level Amazon's system will step in and start emailing customers and recommending our book to customers. We won't know until it happens, but I'd say things look pretty good for some level of love from the algorithms next week. But
it's a staggering amount of guesswork.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of ifs, buts, caveats, but I kind of like that. I kind of like operating in fuzzy logic rather than, because if it wasn't like that, it'd be very easy to figure out and be very easy for people to game, and I think Amazon seems to be just introducing more and more complexity into the system, probably to thwart like people like me and Ed Robertson and Felix Sullivan and like everyone coming up, all the romance authors coming up with these brilliant algorithm-focused marketing plans. I think they're actually starting to put in like random elements too, just to throw people off the scent. But yeah, it's kind of like an arms race.
Well, that's good, because even if you guys did it, that would be awesome. But you know that there would just be a lot of crappy Kindle Gold Rush type stuff out there that would, milk those algorithms whenever they figured them out, and that just ruins it for all of us, because it keeps not only does it keep good stuff down and get crap up at the top, it erodes trust with buyers. Because if book lovers are there and they can't find their favorite books because they have to sort through garbage, they just aren't going to buy. Like, it's not worth it.
Exactly, and like the analog here is with Google and search, and regular changes to the search ranking algorithm. It's not that different. I think like I wouldn't be surprised if Google aren't too annoyed when some kind of like white hat guys figure out a way to position their websites better. But as soon as everyone cops on to the same thing and starts using the same strategies, then it becomes useless for a discovery tool. And books aren't that different. Like you can see Amazon are always looking things and always tweaking things. Like the most obvious time was right after the launch of Select, when they gave people this massive springboard. But even with a small number of free downloads, you were going up the charts quite a lot. And I think they realized it was a little too powerful, and it was introducing perhaps a little bit too much churn in the bestseller list. So they toned it down. And I don't think it really matters what Amazon's plan was originally. They're always kind of looking at the charts and how customers are responding to it and looking at the data. And they're not afraid to change things completely if they feel that customers aren't responding to the last change they made.
I feel the need to position this conversation, because as I'm listening to this, and David understands way more of this than we do, but it makes me think, like, I think the wrong message here is, okay, I want to sell books. I'm gonna write down that exact numerical thing that he just said, and I'm gonna do it. I think that this is a good way to look. We want to say we want to draw that line between tactics and strategies, and this is a tactical this is tactic heavy because we have a very specific aim. But I think that you need to say, well, what can I glean from this discussion, and what is something that would be like trying to game Google? Like, we're doing this, and we want to get the most out of it, as opposed to here's a loophole. Let's copy exactly what somebody else did and just throw whatever into a turn the crank machine.
And as I mentioned earlier, my evidence is that you try and do the same thing and it doesn't work the second time. So we'll just have to see what happens. The other thing that's important to note is we are all basically, in quotes, losing money on this because all of our individual books sell very well. This is Dave's new version of Let's Get Digital, and my new version of How to Market a Book, and your Write, Publish, Repeat continues to sell really well. But we won't, even when we sold 100,000 copies of that box set back in February or whatever, we made not very much money each. And the same way, this is not a income play. This is more of a marketing and a New York.
It's a portfolio move. It's
exactly.
a portfolio move.
So you do have to just decide on what your strategy is. If it was a making more money strategy, it would be completely different.
Right, it would be a terrible making money strategy.
Yeah, I actually said I don't care at all about making any money on this.
Yeah.
Now, is the box set staying at 99 cents, or is it going up to another price, or is it a limited time thing? What's the deal with that?
I think it all depends on what happens next week. It's hard to say until we see if we hit the list or if we just about miss it, but it looks like sales are holding up. And it's really hard. It's really hard to look past what happens next week because that'll change everything either way. I don't know. I don't think we have a plan B really. I think it's all or nothing next week.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that even if it falls flat, there is a way to win. Like, I think that's the beauty of this, is that it is exposure, and we all have CTAs in the backs of our individual books to join our list. The people are going to learn about us. David's a self-publishing authority. His blog is informative as his books, and so like people are gonna become more familiar with all of us. We're gonna get some SPP listeners. We have Fiction Unboxed on pre-order, and I'm watching those pre-orders come in too, just because people are following the chain. So it is a multi-master sort of thing. We have our main goal where we want to hit the list, but I don't think there's any way to truly lose, which is what's so nice about it.
And I want to give a big shout out to Dave, because I've been following his blog from very early. I don't even remember when I first saw it. It was really early on, maybe even before.
It was before we did Yesterday's Gone, for sure.
And as a former newspaper reporter, I totally admire and respect the way he approaches stories, the way on his blog, and he researches stuff. He goes after people with absolutely no fear of like pissing people off and burning bridges with hand grenades.
Because nobody can find him. Where's Waldo? Where in the world?
If you're not reading David's blog, then you're missing a lot. It's just fucking awesome, and it's davidgaughran.wordpress.com. Is it still that? I mean,
I think you're changing to self-hosted now.
What's that?
Yeah, I finally got together the $10 for my own domain name.
Being a journalist doesn't pay well though.
I've just put up a reader site now on davidgaughran.com, and I think I'm going to leave the blog where it is. It'd be such a pain in the ass to move it now with all the links pointing at it and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just going to keep that as my blog for authors, and then have a more professional site on davidgaughran.com for readers in general. But yeah, I think I might stay there. I think it's kind of funny as well, because people keep freaking out and emailing me going like, you have to get your own domain name and all this.
No,
so, yeah. It hasn't held the blog back in any way. So
right.
Like it's kind of frustrating working within the free WordPress setup sometimes. Like I can't even install Google Analytics on my site. There are a lot of restrictions. But
you just got to hope Author Solutions doesn't buy WordPress, Dave. Then you'll be screwed.
Well, I actually saw like the WordPress. Like I think they probably get the ads from AdSense or something. But I think you can pay $30 to get the ads removed off your free blog, but I never knew this, and I hadn't done it, and it was one of my rants about author solutions. Then there was all these AdSense ads popping up, like for iUniverse and all this kind of stuff.
Anyone else find it ironic that Author Solutions name in itself is kind of paradoxical?
It's like the final solution. A rare Hitler joke, yes.
Yeah.
Kate Morgan just left a comment. Okay, just threw some money at Barnes & Noble. Pretty sure I hit someone in the process.
Way to go, Kate.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna let you guys lead sort of the next bit on this question, because it's I don't know, like a lot of what's going on here is proprietary, and we can't share it because it's kind of not our intellectual property. Now that said, now I'm not talking about the content of the books, I'm talking about the strategy. So what can we, I mean, are there things we can talk about the general promotional strategies that we're doing to get this going?
Well, because you were asking about the genesis of this idea, and this isn't really a promotional strategy, but just a mindset that some indies don't seem to adopt. Like, I think the very first genesis of this idea was when I think I had a guest post from Joanna on my blog. I think it was just after I released Let's Get Visible, and Joanna had just released How to Market a Book, I think a month later or something. And I had her on she did a guest post on my blog, and someone asked in the comments, like, do you not consider Joanna's book competition, or do you not consider like this could eat the sales of Let's Get Visible, or like, you know, something like that. And so I was trying to explain to them the whole idea of, you know, like cross-pollination and all that kind of stuff. But there are people out there who do think that they're in competition with other authors and are surprised when authors come together and share their platforms. But I think that's a very kind of small-minded way of looking at the world, and there's a whole lot more to gain from treating your peers as peers and colleagues and partners and allies rather than competition.
Yeah, I agree, and as a most of the stuff I read is actually nonfiction, and I like reading different authors' take on similar subjects. I don't want to read just one book and say, that's it, I'm done, I know everything I need to know.
I'm learned now.
Yeah, and I mean that's the same as like saying, you know, you can't write another romance because somebody's done a girl met boy thing, you know, before. It's crazy. I mean, people, you know, that's the best way to do it. And actually, I was really pissed off at Frankfurt Book Fair because I was on a panel. The title was, "Are there too many books in the world?" You know, not a bloody leading question or anything, and that was my point there too. It was just like, oh, come on, you know, this is about creativity, it's about collaboration. I use the word co-opetition, you know, cooperating with your competition, and no, it's, you know, we all recommend each other's books all the time, right? You know, that's what we do, and it's what I love about the indie space too. I was chairing a meeting for the ITW, the International Thriller Writers. Most of the group were traditionally published, and when me and Nick Stevenson and another guy, Mark Dawson, we were coming up with these ideas like box sets and stuff, these authors were like, what are you talking about? That's just so not in my comfort zone at all, or anything I've ever heard about. So I think this is a very indie thing, and we should totally go embrace it and do more of it.
Because we have tools that the traditional publishers don't have, or traditional authors don't have, and we want to capitalize on all of those, because as we've talked about, I mean, there's one takeaway here for sure. It's that things are constantly changing. You know, this is all very mysterious and shrouded, as David said. You know, it's stabbing in the dark, which is also the name of Dave's autobiography. And right. And so, you know, there's so much to kind of figure out, and it's always changing. And it's cool that we're doing this now, and this may not work next year. But the whole point is that things can change and change and change, and we can change with it so much faster, and we should be cooperating. We should be taking advantage of strategic thinking that makes sense, even if it's foreign or unfamiliar or a little bit scary. There's no guarantees here. Even if it works and we sell a lot of copies and we didn't make the list, all we did is cost ourselves some money and some time, and, you know,
and help some people.
Yeah, but that's okay. Like, this is all good. We've said over and over and over lately. It's all iterative. Like, we're trying to iterate. We're trying to be better this month than the month before. And little stuff like this that could be big stuff is absolutely worth doing.
Hey, Dave. What about next year? If box sets are on the way out, what's coming in?
Are you asking me or David Gaughran?
Well, either of you.
I don't know. I only know the negative things I'm fearing. I don't actually have any ideas beyond that.
Or the other Dave, then.
I actually have no idea. It's just off the top of my head. It could be something like what the guys are doing with the Beam, where you have an open world and authors all write in it to try and get their also bots to line up together. But I don't know. I saw a really smart thing recently. Nick Stevenson, UK author, and Matt Eden, a US thriller author. They both figured they had pretty similar target audiences, and they decided to collaborate in a really interesting way. And this is something you could see more of next year. I think they both put their books on sale at 99 cents at the same time. And then they both emailed their list and highlighted both deals. And then they ran some kind of competition on both their blogs, saying that if you buy both books, you enter into a draw to win some kind of voucher for Amazon or something. So they were putting a lot of pressure on their readers to buy both books at the same time so that they would appear in each other's also bots. And I think you could be seeing a lot of strategies kind of focused on that kind of stuff next year.
Yeah, simultaneous releases. I've been having those conversations as well.
Yeah, that's another great idea. That's a great idea.
Because you can, if you just organize it, you just say, okay, in 6 months' time, we will all release a specific book around a specific thing in a genre on the same day. Then that will impact the also bots. Lots of people could do that at the same time. That would be major to organize something.
Yeah, and that's a really fine example of co-opetition at its best. Like, these are books that should compete with each other, but no, they don't. Readers are readers, and readers hoard a little bit. They collect books that they're not going to read yet. That's very typical behavior.
Yeah.
One thing I think is interesting, I think people often note that there's more of this kind of cooperation in the self-publishing world than in the traditional publishing world. And I've been thinking about this, and I don't think it's necessarily that we're nicer people and they're all assholes or anything like that.
No.
I think it's actually like structural differences in self-publishing and traditional publishing. Like, self-publishing is a model of abundance. Like, digital publishing is a model of abundance. The shelves are endless. We can sell cheaply and still make quite a bit of money. But traditional publishing is a model of scarcity. You've got 4 weeks on the bookshelf. There's only a certain amount of titles that can be faced out in a Barnes & Noble. There's only so many slots that an agent has. There's only so many releases an imprint will make per year. And when your books are $14.99, there's only so many books that readers can buy at that price before they run out of money. So I think maybe that's why there's a little less of this kind of open source cooperation on the trad side, because there's just inbuilt competition between the players more than there is in the kind of free-for-all self-publishing world where everyone can win at the same time.
Yeah, publishers won't work with one another, like try and organize like events like this, like competing.
Unless they want to price of books, maybe. Organize together effectively.
It's also about permission. What was so interesting with this group of authors was, we were like, yeah, we'll put that one in a box set and we'll just send some copies to readers. And they were like, well, but I can't do that. I don't own my rights. I don't have permission to do this, and the publisher is never going to do that. And also, even down to, let's just do a big giveaway for Christmas and send books to readers. And one lady said, well, I'll have to ask my publisher to send a copy to a reader. And I was just like, whoa, that's just such a alien attitude to have to ask permission to do something around giving books away or using our copyright work in something we want to do. So that permission aspect is huge, and the empowerment that comes from owning your rights.
Yeah, and it's painful when you have that and it's taken away. When you know
any stories about that, John?
Well, not that I want to get into.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
No, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole.
A bunch of times.
But it is true. It's like we've been spoiled. We've been indies. We know how to market our books and communicate with our readers. And when there's that barrier in between the relationship that you want to have with your reader and this other entity who actually gets to say yes or no, and you have to ask for permission, and 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a no, it kind of sucks.
Or ignored.
Or ignored, yes.
Did you? I got up for a minute. Did we get into any specific? Because we had the discussion about co-opetition and stuff. Did we get into any of the specifics of the marketing plan that we can talk about, or do we not want to or shouldn't?
Just in very basic terms, the idea was to try and get sales going on Amazon just to the level where the recommendation engine would hopefully kick in from November, the week that we're shooting for the MYT. And so we decided to hit our respective platforms in the pre-order phase and then go wider with marketing once the book was actually live. And I think the kind of logic there is that if you have a reader who is excited to support you and all that kind of stuff, they don't mind. There's going to be no psychological barrier with a pre-order, because I think some readers, and I'm one of them, is not crazy. I'm not crazy about buying pre-orders unless I know they're going to be coming out in a week or two. Like if something is coming out in 3 months, I don't like dropping the money until it's nearly out. So I think when you're going wider with the marketing, like when you're appearing on reader sites and you're taking out ads or whatever, and you're meeting people who have no direct connection to you, they're not part of your platform. I think then you want to remove that any slight little impediment that's going to stop them from clicking that button. So that was the basic idea, I think, between going wider when it's live and then hitting your networks during pre-order phase.
So advertising and stuff.
Yep, so we've got advertising. We've also got guest posts on Nook and on Kobo and various other places. So I don't think any of it is anything new, right? What we're doing, it's not new. It's just coordinated.
I think it's how it's all strung together is kind of the secret sauce there. I don't think there's any one element that's like, ooh, no one's ever heard of that before, right? It's like it's Facebook ads and it's together. By the way, this was so annoying. So yesterday we posted on Facebook and we promoted the post.
Oh, and it got rejected.
It got rejected, and I'm like, some of the stuff that slips through on Facebook ads are pretty sketchy, right?
Yeah.
You got this like it's a perfectly fine ad. It was the poster that Dave made, but there was too much text on it, and so they got rejected. And we did whatever. It's just like I don't understand how Facebook advertising works because it doesn't seem consistent.
I get the feeling there's a bunch of little Caesars in there. Ha ha ha! I have the power.
Yes.
I think Facebook advertising is all about trying to sell me shit that I don't want. They're always trying to sell me like these info marketing courses from very sketchy people.
We should say though,
never
on
bought
Facebook,
No.
on Facebook we are all appearing on the March to a Bestseller, which is on November the 7th, right? November the 7th, we'll be there for some chatting, Facebook chats. Anyone got the link handy?
No, hold on. I do. Are you're talking about specifically just the March to a Bestseller link? Yeah.
There's a link on the Sell More Book Show.
Yeah, I should have. I think it's March. It's selfpublishingpodcast.com/March is what it is.
There we go. And I have loads of giveaways for that, like far more giveaways, including, I heard, a 30-minute consultation with Steve Scott. And considering he makes gazillions of dollars every month, having a half-an-hour consultation with him is probably worth entering for. Plus lots of stuff we're giving away, but he's the man of the moment.
Dave's gonna dance for that also. That's two dances.
The interview on your podcast was awesome, Joanna. I really enjoyed Steve.
Is brilliant. Yeah, I'm a real fangirl of Steve now.
So I just wanted to pause really quickly to say I flipped over to Facebook because I was curious about the promoted post, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Buddy Gott. He just got married. Remember he said that last week? He was looking to get married that morning. Will my wife care if I listen to SPP? So, wedding.
They got divorced immediately after.
Because he made the mistake of listening to Better Off Undead. So here's a question I have about indie pre-orders. Can't do reviews with the exception of one they sneaked by for Yesterday's Gone. Sean and Dave wrangled one, but we don't have one on the IPP. And then Sean and I currently have two other pre-orders going, and those don't have reviews. And so when we talked about going wide, is anybody worried that even when it's brand new, even when it goes live, it won't have on Monday, right? Like I think Monday's the go live date. It
Yeah.
won't have any reviews on it. So is there anything concerned there about trying to get some reviews in there right away?
Yeah, I think we should all be asking our readers to copy their reviews across. I think with box sets, it's generally considered okay if you've only read one of the books out of 3 to copy that review across and then note specifically in the review, like this review is just for Let's Get Digital or whatever.
Oh, that's good. We can.
I think
that's
what authors generally do with their street teams, and they ask them on Facebook and stuff like that. They just say, if you've reviewed the book, you'd be doing me a great favor if you copy your review across. So that's what we'll all have to do that on Monday as soon as we're able to reach out to our readers and ask them to do that for us. I actually did it in my email announcing the pre-order because I forgot that they couldn't review. So I asked everybody to copy their reviews across. So I'd like to apologize to all of my readers who tried to do it and then found out that I was talking absolute rubbish. But this is part of the learning experience for everyone, including us.
But when this goes live, right?
This show will be.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's right. The YouTube people, all 29 of you, as I'm seeing this, and whoever gets it before Monday, it's still in pre-order, but it'll go on iTunes Wednesday, and that's when most people listen. So it will be live. So if you're listening to this and you've read one or 2 or 3 of our books, we would really, really appreciate copying those reviews over to the Indie Author Power Pack. There you go. I notice a natural lull. If we run out, we'd probably be done.
I was just checking comments, but yeah, we should wrap up. We have a guest for Better Off Undead as well.
Oh, who's that?
We would
Ray Chase. Ray Chase is our new regular on Better Off Undead.
And the funny thing is that it's a little passive aggressive too. Like, hey Ray, you're coming on next week, right? It's like he doesn't. I think he likes it. I think he likes it, but it may just be he may just be tolerating the abuse.
That's what I do on the show, so.
It's true.
Better Off Undead. It could be, yes, Better Off on Ray. All right. So I guess the final call here for anybody is if you've read any of our books and this is live, if you want to help us out, we would really, really appreciate copying reviews over. We would appreciate any pre-orders or orders of the book. That would really help, and especially on Barnes & Noble. Amazon is really important, but
Barnes & Noble is super important. If you don't have one of the books in this, then it's a no-brainer. But even if you don't, if you have all of them, then the transcript is awesome, totally worth it. And even if you don't care about that, but you listen every week.
Audio, video, and the transcript.
Yeah, and if you listen every week, like a buck tip is awesome. Like it's awesome. It would really help us out because we want to hit the list and we want to talk about it, and it will be cool.
And for those of you who have writing followings or writers that you talk to, or Google Plus groups or Facebook groups, we would really appreciate spreading the word too.
Yeah, that's actually a better tip than the $1. Just a tweet, a mention, hey, check this out. This is really awesome. I read this book. It's fantastic. I read these books. They're fantastic. But
do you want to get all ShamWow? Because we could be like,
it's only
Christmas
99
gift.
cents.
It's only 99
there's
cents.
more.
Wait.
All right, so
and Dave's going to dance if we hit the New York
No,
Times.
I'm not.
So and we get picked the song. He said he'd like to do it to I'm So Fancy.
If Gaughran shaves his beard, I'll dance. How about that?
That would be a crime. I don't want David to shave his beard.
He can shave.
Because I don't want to dance.
It will be back like by lunchtime. Right?
All right, so thanks for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast. I'm going to skip our usual, get right, publish, repeat, or whatever, and say check out the Indie Publishing, the Indie Author Power Pack, which is at selfpublishingpodcast.com/powerpack. That actually will redirect to the page on the Sterling & Stone site, which has all the links, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble. Spread the word, please. Our information gain is your information gain. We'll share it with you and let you know what happened. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.
I love that Joanna and Sean are dancing while Dave and I are bookending, sitting here stone